Hi everyone, it's Lyndsey and welcome back to my channel. I'm going to be talking about another true crime case. This case is going to be about Colleen Ritzer and Philip Chism. So this story takes place in a quiet little suburban town of Danvers, Massachusetts, only home to about 26,000 people. Colleen Ritzer is going to be a popular teacher at the high school, Danvers High School, and she's going to mysteriously go missing. Colleen Ritzer was born on May 13th, 1989 in the town of Lawrence, Massachusetts. She was born to her parents Peggy and Thomas Ritzer. She has two siblings, Laura and Daniel Ritzer. She earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in mathematics with a minor in psychology. So she was a very intelligent woman. She was 24 at the time of her death. She was teaching, I believe, 9th grade algebra at Danvers High School. She loved to tutor students that were struggling, which is you're going to see that at the time of her death, that's exactly what she was getting ready to do, was tutor a set of struggling students. She said on Twitter often. She had a Twitter account that she was very active with. She liked to communicate with her students via social media by posting homework, links to different assignments that maybe she had posted, and just overall sharing funny puns about math. You could tell that she had a love for math, and she shared it every chance that she got. Chism was born on January 21st, 1999 to his parents Stacy and Diana Chism. His parents were divorced eventually. He's from Clarksville, Tennessee, so he was born and raised there. He also has a sister, Isabella. He liked to play soccer. He was described by his peers as very quiet, very timid, didn't say a whole lot. Really nothing out of the ordinary with this child. He was an athletic child by all appearances and standards. He had friends, even though he was quiet and standoffish, and he appeared to enjoy the same things that his peers liked to do. Chism, no one knew why he was there. Sarah, the other teacher that talked to Colleen in the hallway, testified that Colleen made a comment she didn't even know why he was there, that she didn't realize he needed tutoring, and that was the only conversation they really had about him that day. Mom Diana testified in court when he was being sentenced that she was worried he was going to snap. He was having a hard time with his parents' divorce. His mom forced him to move to Massachusetts and attend Danvers High School. He did not like this. He did not want to be there. And the psychologists are trying to say, they're going to later say in the trials, that all of this built up, pent up emotion with his parents' divorce is going to ultimately lead into what he will eventually do to Colleen Ritzer. On October 22nd, 2013, they were celebrating, I believe, homecoming week for the school, so they had what they called Twin Day. Colleen dressed as her co-worker, Sarah, Gianquinta. I know I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but that's her name. She was also a math teacher at the high school. She was her friend. She was Colleen's co-worker, and they were really good friends. They were really close. She dressed like a twin day. They dressed like twins for Twin Day with a purple shirt and black pants. That's what she's going to be wearing in the CCTV. Later that afternoon, she was going to set up her classroom to tutor struggling students in math, just like she did almost every day after class. In that classroom would be Philip Chism. Was another student in the class that testified at the time that Colleen was trying to make conversation with Chism. He was a new student from Tennessee. Colleen was a very chatty person. She was a happy teacher. She wanted to make everyone feel welcome. So she started asking Chism about his life in Tennessee. I mean, it seems like a harmless thing to do. Get to know people. You want to you want to find out where they come from. Chism became visibly upset. The student said that he started mumbling under his breath. He just was very irritated with the whole conversation, and Colleen saw this, and at the sight of this, she did change the subject and tried to talk about something else. However, the student noticed that the Chism did not cheer up. He continued to mumble under his breath and just looked like he just was not happy. Around this time, this is when Colleen decided to get up, and she's caught on CCTV walking into the hallway to the upstairs restroom around 2:54 p.m. that afternoon after having the conversation with Sarah, her co-worker, in the hallway. Can be seen poking his head out of the classroom, of Colleen's classroom, watching Colleen go to the restroom around this time. He then waits about a second or two and then walks out into the hallway. He could be seen at 2:55 following Colleen Ritzer into the upstairs women's bathroom with a blue hoodie over his head, and you could also see that he was putting on gloves. He was in the restroom probably for a good 10 minutes at this point. 3:06 comes around. There's a shot of a student walking into that same restroom, but all she said was that she saw someone's naked butt, which would be Chism's, and clothes on the ground, and she immediately turned around and walked out. She took it as someone was changing. She didn't want to interrupt. She didn't see much. She just saw what she needed. She saw the naked butt and walked out. So the student was cleared of any knowledge of anything that was going on. Immediately after, about 3:07, Chism could be seen walking out of the restroom, and this is when it gets dicey. You could see him running around the school. I think between 3:14 and 3:16 p.m. he can be seen wheeling a recycling bin up the stairs into the second floor bathroom, and then certain CCTV videos that caught him turning the corner, you could actually see his hand was full of blood. So he exits the restroom with the can about 3:22 p.m. He can be seen between 3:23 and 3:30 wheeling the can around school outside to the back area, the backwoods. Where the school was set, there was a bunch of woods in the back. So he was seen around 3:30 p.m. that day by a few people that reported they saw him walking to the woods. My thing is, why was no one raising alarm bells with this child running around with a bloody hand wheeling a recycling bin? I mean, was the school that deserted at that time? Because I know it was after school, and typically after school activities happen. So, I mean, I work at a school. People stay after school all the time for things. I just want to know how this child was able to get upstairs, mind you, with a recycling bin, wheel it back downstairs, all around the outside of the building. He's going to be caught on CCTV being seen by people outside. You could see someone walking their dog that saw him, that he walked right next to. I mean, there was a mom that was picking up her student after school, reportedly seen him running towards the woods. No one thought that was weird. I mean, no one thought, hey, what is this child doing? Let me stop and ask him. I mean, not to mention, you're going to see in some of the CCTV video footage that I'm going to post down in the description that he was completely dirty and covered in blood. Something was clearly up with him, and no one was around to see this or do anything or intervene in any kind of way. I find that a little weird. 4 p.m. rolls around. This kid's barefoot running around school. Back up the stairs. He could be seen returning to the scene of the crime. My guess is to clean up as much as he could, and then he changed his clothes. He was completely bloody. He had a white t-shirt on, I believe, and some jeans, some like ripped up jeans that were covered in blood. So he ditched those clothes and he changed into some clean clothes. He could be seen about 4:05. This was about 4:05 when he re-entered the bathroom to change. So after that, he walks back to Colleen's class very briefly and grabs not only his belongings, but her belongings as well. I mean, she had a purse, a bag. I'm sure she had some items of value that were around her desk. And he just helped himself to it, grabbed all of the belongings, and he could be seen exiting the school around this point. Somewhere around 4:30 that afternoon, between 4 and 4:30, he could actually be seen outside having a conversation with a fellow student, as if nothing was wrong, as if an hour ago he wasn't just doing something awful. So that just gives you some kind of clue of what kind of psychopath we're dealing with. Important to note that Chism also had a scheduled soccer practice. He played for the soccer team at Danvers High School. I believe he at that point only had like a couple practices at that point. He had a practice that day that he absolutely did not show up for. This also raised alarm bells to his mother, who then eventually phoned the police later on to report him missing. 6:30, Chism's mother, Diana, has not heard from her son, has not showed up at soccer practice. She phones the police. The principal of Danvers High School, Sue Ambrosovich, I pretty sure I butchered her name, but she's the principal of Danvers High School at this time. She was phoned about a missing kid. So she put out an email to the faculty and staff about 9 p.m. that night regarding a missing student, Philip Chism. Well, lo and behold, around that same time, another phone call goes through. This time it's a missing teacher, Colleen Ritzer. Colleen's teacher and her parents actually grew very concerned. She lived with her parents at the time. She was only 24 years old, so she was living with her parents, you know, I guess until she got on her feet. She was just starting out her career. Her parents and her were very close. They were known to talk every day, text, call each other. Like, there was never a day that they went without seeing her and without talking to her. By 9 p.m. that night, Colleen has not been heard from. Colleen has not even returned home. So worried parents called the police and filed a missing persons report. They drove by the school and saw that her car was indeed still in the parking lot, which raised the alarm bells of the other math teacher. I'm still fuzzy if it's the same math teacher she was seen talking to before her death, or maybe another teacher. I'm leaning towards the same one. But I'm really not sure. It was reported that she grew worried as well when she also went to leave school and saw Colleen's car still there, and just found it weird that she was there, her car was there, and no one was around. She wasn't around. They looked in her classroom up and down. Her belongings were gone, but her car was there and she was gone. So everything was just kind of starting to turn into a mess at this point. Going into the next morning, October 23rd of 2013, it's after midnight, half past midnight, 12:30. Chism is spotted walking on the road. They put out a missing persons report, so somebody saw him and recognized him from the report and said that he looked off. He was just walking on the side of the road by himself, alone in the dark. There were no lights or anything around. And the cops pulled over and questioned him. Basically, hey, we've been looking for you. He was acting weird. They looked in his school bag and found all the evidence. I mean, this dude did not even try to conceal anything. He had the box cutter that he used to stab Colleen with that still had her blood on it, mind you. He had her underwear. He had all her debit cards and her license, her ID and everything. He had everything. I mean, this was probably the jackpot for these officers. I mean, he didn't even try to hide or conceal anything. One of the officers that arrested him actually asked him, whose blood is this? And all he replied was, it's the girl's. At this point, Chism has all of her belongings on him. He's missing. She's missing. They're going to go back through CCTV and discover he was the last person to be seen with her. I mean, this case was not, it did not take long to solve it at all. The cops kind of just knew that they had their guy, and they also knew that they had to locate a deceased female at this point. Chism basically told them that he broke into her car and stole those items. That's how he got her items in his possession. Needless to say, they didn't buy it, and they put him under arrest. This is where the story is going to get a little bit disturbing. If you're sensitive to abuse and sexual rape, I would suggest maybe clicking off or fast forwarding further down, but this is where it's going to get a little disgusting. Colleen's body was located about 3 a.m. October 23rd, 2013, almost exactly 12 hours since she had gone missing. She was located in the woods behind Danvers High School. Her body was covered in leaves, and she was naked from the waist down in a sexually suggested pose. It was apparent to the investigators that she also had been raped with an object. The object was found right next to her body, which was a really long tree branch. Next to her body was also discarded bloody gloves that Chism was going to be. It was going to seem that he was going to come to know that he was wearing them in the CCTV. So this dude really did nothing to try to cover his tracks. He just left it all out for the officers to clean up. Basically. Back at the school, there was a janitor working there at the time that spoke very broken English. So when he reported to the supervisor, which I guess was the janitor or someone above him, that when he walked into the upstairs bathroom after this happened, there was blood everywhere. But when he went to report it to the supervisor, it came out as blue spill. So they thought that he dumped cleaner and needed something to clean it up. They sent this janitor away with a mop and a bucket to clean up the blood. So unfortunately, a lot of the evidence was unintentionally cleaned up in this case before the detectives and the officers could get up there and look, because of a miscommunication with one of the janitors that found the mess. He didn't speak good English. So just because of that miscommunication, a lot of the evidence was cleaned up, but they did find blood splatter still along where the baseboard and the wall meets inside the restroom. So they were still able to get some evidence. Around this time, they were combing through Colleen's bank statements and all her transactions that were made, which is how they traced Chism back to the movie theater after he left school. Instead of going to his soccer practice, he left school and attended a Woody Allen film. after that Woody Allen film, he treated himself to Wendy's. So he just murdered his teacher and raped her, and just, he's gonna go see a movie and eat Wendy's. Okay. And lo and behold, it was all on Colleen's dime. He was using her bank cards to pay for the movie and the Wendy's. So that's how the officers were able to find where Chism went after he left the school grounds initially. After this, all of this transpired. They go to work on the CCTV. Danvers High School is canceled the next day to students and staff so they can investigate. I mean, I'm just thinking in my head, sidebar, how scary that must have been for these students. Like, you can't go to school today. We're investigating a murder that happened in your school. Like, CCTV is all coming out, which is how they were able to find Chism walking out of the classroom and following Colleen into the restroom. And then 10 minutes go by, another student walks in and then walks back out. They see Chism walking back out. He returns later, moments later, with a trash can. You can see the bloody glove. They traced him all around the school. I mean, he really did nothing to hide what he was doing whatsoever. And again, I said, like I was saying earlier, no one ever stopped to question this dude. Why are you wheeling a trash can into the school full of blood? Like, no one saw him to question him. So all of this was just like the perfect storm for this crime to happen, really. On CCTV, they have him coming back to the school barefoot with blood on his pants. They found the bloody gloves right next to Colleen's body. All the evidence inside of his backpack, the box cutter, the underwear, just all of this is just pointing straight at him. There was really no time at all making an arrest and pressing charges. They tried to do the insanity plea. So after Chism was arrested, they interviewed students and teachers, and that's when the Tennessee story came to fruition to the detectives from the student that was in the classroom the afternoon that Colleen was murdered, saying that she was just trying to make conversation with Chism about Tennessee and where he came from, and he became, it's pretty much the trigger that set him off. He was indicted on charges of murder, robbery, aggravated rape, and armed robbery. Of course, he pleaded not guilty to these charges. Again, the insanity plea tried to come into play. The defense tried to say he was reeling from the divorce of his parents, that he wasn't in the right state of mind, that everything changed from moving from one state to the other. He was under tremendous stress, and the teacher talking about it just set him off some type of way. Okay, I know plenty of students who transfer from different states all the time. I don't think that gives them a green flag to kill their teacher or anyone for that matter. I mean, stress happens. Children need to be taught how to deal with it. So it's safe to say this child had a lot of untreated mental issues. Even his mother is going to testify. If you look at the trial, I'm going to post everything. But even in the trial, his mother said that she was worried that one day he was going to snap because he was showing aggressive behaviors at home. Never at school. According to all his soccer buddies and a lot of his acquaintances that didn't really see him outside of school, all said he was quiet. Like, they were in complete disbelief that he was a new student, for one thing. So a lot of people didn't really know him, but the ones who had classes with him and knew him a little bit all said that they just couldn't believe it. He could do something like that, basically. He just seemed like your typical quiet high school athlete that, you know, just was quiet. There's a lot of quiet kids all the time. They always say it's the quiet ones you have to watch out for. And I think it's cases like this that give that statement validity, because you know, he was quiet. He never was in trouble with the law. He was never suspended. There was just never really any concerns outside of the home life that this boy would do something like kill his teacher. So Colleen's parents also testified, of course, victim impact statement. They made a moving statement just about the life they lost. They were a very close family. The Ritzers were very close. They established a foundation for Colleen called Kindness for Colleen. Her mom is very active in the in the sexual abuse world, as far as protecting victims, protecting women who go missing, who are sexually assaulted. She's really trying to use her daughter's death for something good, you can see. So after all the victims impact statements were made and all of the testimonies were given, Chism was eventually sentenced to life in prison. He received, well, a 40-year sentence for the robbery and the rape. So life in prison for the murder, followed by a 40-year sentence for the robbery and the rape. This kid was 14 years old. He's never going to get out of prison. Personally, I don't think he needs to. I think this kid is dark. You could even see in the actions that he did how he didn't even try to hide what he was doing. He was just out in the open. Hey, I killed her. I mean, if he really wanted to try to hide it, he would have ditched all the evidence. He would have done more to, I guess, get away with it, even though that would have been damn next to impossible, because he was caught on CCTV. He was caught following her into the bathroom. I mean, how much more concrete can you get? I don't think hiding anything would have probably made a difference for him. But he was just cold. A cold, callous murder. I feel like, geez, I just feel bad for these students and teachers that went to this school. I mean, here they are thinking like this was a town, a safe town or a safe city, that nothing ever out of the ordinary really ever happens, and all of a sudden there's a teacher and a student that goes missing, and then one comes up dead. And then after all that, all the chaos that came after that, I just feel really bad for that community that they had to, I guess, deal with that. And even more so for Colleen's family, because they lost their daughter in such a horrific, I mean, it was awful. It was awful. She was stabbed over 16 times, they said. This is the gruesome part of the trial. She was stabbed over 16 times. It seems like that he snuck up behind her. He actually sliced her neck from ear to ear, to the point that her head was almost coming off of her body, and she was raped. She was raped inside the bathroom. She was also drugged. He put her body into the trash can, which is the trash can he was seen wheeling around the school to the backwoods, and he used the trash can to deliver her bleeding, dying body to the woods. Now, they did testify that there's a possibility that she could have been alive after being stabbed and brutally raped inside of the trash can, but he basically finished off the job outside in the woods. He stabbed her again, and he raped her with a tree branch, and then he left her, covered up her body, didn't even try to really dress her or anything, left her completely exposed for everyone to find her 12 hours later. I want to know your opinion about this case. This was kind of a short and sweet case. The guy very much incriminated himself from the beginning. This is kind of just one of those cases that, you know, it makes you realize you never really know who's around you. You think you might know someone, but you don't. And there's a lot of people that say they're leery of new people that they haven't met before. Cases like this are the prime reason for that. I feel terribly. I hope her family has somewhat found peace since her death. This was in 2013, so this was almost 9 years ago at this point. But I do know her family still lives on in her honor through the Kindness for Colleen movement. If you don't know the movement, you can Google it and research it. Her name and her mom's name is going to come up. Her mom and dad have been very vocal about their daughter and just making sure that her legacy moves on. As far as I'm concerned, Philip Chism can rot in prison for the rest of his life. I really just don't think that he deserves to be free. It's kind of like the previous video I did with Sheila Eddy and Rachel Schoaf. They don't deserve to be free. I don't care if they were just teenagers when they made the crime. They knew what they were doing. That insanity plea is garbage for Chism, okay? People move all the time. People are uprooted and have to go through things, trials and tribulations all the time in life. No one kills anybody, okay? So it just boggles my mind when you get an otherwise normal child who has not had any issues really he was never committed, he was never in and out of behavior counseling, and they're trying to throw the insanity plea all of a sudden. No, boo, he knew right from wrong. He knew what he was doing. He needs to serve the rest of his life in prison. And what a slap in the face to Colleen's parents, who, you know, have done everything that they could to try to see justice for their daughter. Okay, this is actually trying to pass a law stating that all prisoners are going to be eligible for parole after 25 years, regardless of the crime. Again, what a slap in the face. I mean, in Philip Chism's case, he does not need to be eligible for parole at any point. You murder someone, specifically murder someone in such a brutal manner, you need to sit right where you are in the prison cell. What do you guys think? What are your opinions? Feel free to comment. I'm pretty vocal about mine. Again, this was a short and sweet case. R.I.P. Colleen Ritzer. Very sad, very preventable. And I just want to know what your takes on it. What do you feel about Philip Chism and his potential mental illness? Do you think he may have had a cause for being mentally ill, or do you think it was just all a put on to try to get him a lesser sentence, which is what I'm leaning for? I don't know. I mean, obviously, yeah, he is mentally ill to do something like that, but at the same time, he knew what he was doing. He wasn't incompetent. Like, it's not like he was hallucinating or not in the right state of mind, so to speak, because they've done all the tests. He was in his right state of mind. So, what an awful case. Thank you guys. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much, and please subscribe to my channel and be on the lookout for the next video and the next case. Hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon.